So, in continuing the series that we're doing on law firms, now this one is one where I wanted to dive a little bit deeper for personal injury law firms. So, when it comes down to finance for law firms, there are some things that are going to be common across the board, but then there are going to be some areas where there is a little bit of specificity, there's a little bit of uniqueness just because the nature of a personal injury law firm is a little bit different than a family law, or is a little bit different than litigation, or maybe a little bit different than mediation. And so what I wanted to do is dive a little bit deeper into personal injury law firm, well, finance for personal injury law firms. So to give you a little bit of context, for those of you that may not know me, my name is Terrell Turner. I am a CPA, and my background is accounting and finance. And am managing partner for the TL Turner Group, a firm that provides bookkeeping and CFO services. We do not do taxes. And, it's one of those areas where we were strategic about that because one of the things that we looked at is that when you think about an accountant, especially when you think about a CPA, most people immediately think, oh, this person can help me with my taxes. But what we were seeing is a huge gap is that there were a lot of people who were paying an accountant for tax support or tax services. But when we looked, we said, there are a lot of opportunities in their business that they're missing out on is because they didn't understand that the difference between a bookkeeper, a CPA, and a CFO. So we decided, you know what? The way we can really help a lot of businesses is really providing quality bookkeeping and helping them understand their numbers, as well as CFO services of helping them take those numbers and be more strategic in their business. So as they're moving forward, they can make informed financial decisions. So we focus in those areas of bookkeeping and CFO services. Our firm was recognized in the New York Times in 2021. Personally, I'm also a 40 under 40 like CPA recognized in 2021 as well. And we create a lot of free content like this video that you're probably watching. And you may have seen some of the other stuff we do under our media company, the Business Talk Library, where we create a lot of different shows where we're talking about different finance and accounting topics, and are probably one of our most watched, or I guess say most frequently watched shows, because it's probably the older one, is the Business Talk Library interviews, where we interview other business owners, whether it's law firm owners, service-based businesses, tech companies, and we're really asking them questions about what their journey was like and two lessons that they've learned. So a lot of great content. Again, my background is accounting and finance, so that is the area that I really work in. So now back to the topic of this video, because you wanted to learn a little bit more about the finance for personal injury law firms. So there are going to be two areas that I really dive into that I think are unique enough to where we need to dive into the topic a little bit more. And these are things that you may have heard about, and these are things that you may not have heard. Based on the nature of personal injury law firms, it's what I like to call the cash flow blocks. See, when it comes down to managing any type of business, cash flow is going to be very, very important. And the way that I like to explain cash flow is that cash flow is not just, hey, do you have money in the bank? It's more of how money is coming in and flowing out of your business. So if you think about that, how money flows in and out of your business, that's what cash flow is. And when you really start to break it down and look at your cash flow, there are different aspects of what's really driving that. And if you are going to manage an effective business, you need to understand what are the drivers of the inflows and the outflows. And so when it comes down to a personal injury firm, one of the big outflows outside of, like I said, payroll and such, one of the big outflows is going to be marketing. There are a lot of personal injury firms that are spending a lot of money on marketing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. So you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on, hey, what are we spending our marketing dollars on? And then another thing that you want to keep in mind is, are you getting a return on an investment? Like, are you spending your marketing dollars in the right places that are generating the leads that turn into clients. So you definitely want to make sure that you're able to understand that. Now, if you're working with a really good law firm management system, one of the things that you can do in your law firm management system is you can see, okay, what source did this client come from? And then you can look at the reporting to see, okay, how much revenue was generated from this source, to where it can help you start to understand what's your ROI from your marketing spend. The other major aspect is going to be timing. Now, one of the things about a personal injury law firm is that you typically are paid some type of contingency based on the settlement amount, which means that you're going to do some work, you're going to do some work, you're going to do some work, and then case gets settled, boom, get a big check. Now, depending on how big the case is, that will judge how big the actual amount of money that the firm gets. But when you think about that, during that time that you're working the case, you don't have constant revenue coming in. I mean, the revenue can look a little sporadic. So, as a personal injury law firm, you're going to have timing as a major factor that's influencing your cash flow. So, some of the things that you can do is making sure that, hey, we're feeding enough cases through the pipeline to where we have enough cases that are, settling while some are still in the works and so forth. And some of that is really getting into looking at your data and kind of understanding, hey, what is the average time on the types of cases we've been bringing in? Monitoring that to seeing, hey, if it takes, 90 days to settle a case, or let's say if it takes 6 months to settle a case, the question you got to be asking yourself is, what are my expenses for the next 6 months? And can the firm financially survive over the next 6 months? If that's what our average looks like. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that in mind. Also, another huge factor is the case performance. Like I said, you're usually going to get some type of contingency on the settlement. So you want to make sure you're understanding, hey, how are our cases typically performing? Now, if you've done several, PI cases, you can kind of start to see, start to notice some trends. And as you start to know those trends in your history, you can start to use that information to think more intelligently going forward, because you don't want to get yourself in a situation where more cash is flowing out of the business for an extended period of time. Then that runs you into issues. And then the other thing that you want to keep that plays a role is your fiscal responsibility. Now, this may be common knowledge for some lawyers, but I do want to make sure that I reiterate this and be very, very clear to reiterate how important this is. When there is a settlement, you should have a operating account for your firm, and there should be a separate trust account. Like, there shouldn't just be one account for the firm. Like, there needs to be separation between what money belongs to the client or are you holding on the client's behalf, and then what's in the firm's operating account. Because I've talked to some lawyers and that wasn't what they understood, or that wasn't a practice that they were doing. And I'm saying, like, hey, it's one thing not to know, but now that you've seen this video, best practice is you want to make sure you can separate those funds, because when you get a settlement agreement, or when you get that big check for the settlement agreement, not all the money belongs to you. So you want to make sure that you are having good fiscal responsibility, because when you see that clear separation, you can more clearly see what's the amount of cash that the firm actually has access to, versus trying to look at everything in one big pool saying like, oh, we got enough cash. Like, no, not all of the cash from a settlement belongs to you. You only want to look at what do you legally and rightfully have access to. So those are four very important things that feed into your cash flow, that if you're a personal injury law firm, you want to make sure that you keep that in mind. The other topic that I want to talk about, which I kind of alluded to it in the fiscal responsibility, is the three-way reconciliation when it comes down to trust accounting. Now, trust accounting is a little bit unique to law firms or let's say companies that take retainers, because with a trust account, there's going to be this three-way reconciliation that should be happening on a regular basis. Whereas in your law firm management system, that's where you're going to have, hey, this is what's in your trust balance, and here are all the people that make up that balance. Like you have a little bit of this person's money, a little bit of that person's money, some of that person's money, maybe a lot of that person's money. But that trust account in your law firm management is going to break it down. Now, that number, that total number, should tie to what you have in your trust bank account. So the bank account, there should be some reconciliation there. There may be some differences due to timing, but that should be explainable and it should be very clear on what that is. And then that should tie to what is in your balance sheet when you go back to your financial statements. Now, the reason why I highlighted this red, because this is where I see a lot of breakdown, where a lot of firms that I look at and I ask, okay, hey, does your trust balance on your balance sheet, does it tie to what's in your bank or what's in your trust account on your law firm management system? Every one of them has said no. I have not met a lawyer yet that said yes, they all tie. And part of that is because a lot of the lawyers I meet, they either didn't have a bookkeeper, or they didn't have someone that was already working with them in that area, or they had someone that was just focused on the P&L, the expenses and the income. But you want to make sure that you have this level of data correct on your balance sheet. You want to make sure that your balance sheet is also correct as well. So those are the two things: the cash flow blocks and the three-way reconciliation for your trust account. Now, one of the things that I also like to make a mention to a lot of law firms is there's a resource that I think is a must-have resource, and that is a book by Kristen David called Up Level Your Business, Up Leveling Your Life. And you want to make sure that, when you're having any type of business, that you have systems in place. And she does an amazing job in this book of talking about the four pillars of a successful and profitable business. Now, profitable is a very, very, very key word, because there are a lot of people who have a business and it is just running them ragged. And then when I look at the financials, they're not all that profitable. But one of the things that I've seen is that when you have the principles that she speaks of so well in this book, it definitely helps out a lot. And then also, speaking of Kristen Davis resources, she also has established a company called Up Leveling Your Business. And there they have a phenomenal coaching program that really helps law firm owners really take a deeper look at some of the critical areas of their business, like the sales, the marketing, how they're taking care of their clients, and then also how they're managing their internal team. And then I also do some work with Kristen and her team in around the financial controls of really helping coach law firm owners on how to put the right controls in place and the right processes. Many of them, if they're working with a bookkeeper, what we've done is we've said, hey, here are the things that you probably need to have in place, or here's the agreement, or here's how the agreement should work between you and your bookkeeper to make sure you as a firm owner are getting what you need to actually manage and effectively manage your law firm. And then also, outside of the UIB coaching, like I said, my firm, the TL Turner Group, we provide bookkeeping and CFO support, where we work with a lot of different law firms and a lot of different companies, where we dive a little bit deeper, whereas you may say, hey, you know what? I really need a good bookkeeper to help support my firm. Like, it's great to have the system, but I need somebody to actually be the bookkeeper or to support my firm in bookkeeping. Well, the TL Turner Group, we provide amazing services in that area. So you can definitely leave a comment wherever you're seeing this, or you can send us an email at contact@tlturnergroup.com. And we will definitely be glad to speak with you to understand what your needs are and to really find the best way that we can help you move to the next level of success and the next level of opportunity within your firm. As always, hey, thanks for watching.